Has this ever happened to you where you're about to text somebody, but you accidentally text the person that you were thinking about instead of the person that you wanted to text, and those words may have been maybe not the most flattering? Have you ever thought about the importance of the words that you speak and the effect that it has on the people around you, including yourself? On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of our words, the importance of our speech, and how it affects the way that we think. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Preconceived podcast, the podcast that aims to improve your life by improving your thinking. And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about our speech. And this is just building off of the last couple of episodes where we've talked about what we're watching, what we're listening to, and now we're going to talk about what we're speaking, because all of our senses work together to formulate thoughts, to create ways of thinking, whether we know it or not. One of the most amazing things that we touched on last week is one of the ways that our brain works when we are speaking. What our brain actually does when we're speaking is it lowers the voice of other things around us, of other sounds around us, so that our own voice is amplified and our own voice is given precedence. And I believe this really goes along with the verse that says life and death is in the power of the tongue. We have the ability to speak good things. We have the ability to speak bad things. We have the ability to speak life into situations, to give authority by our words into situations around us. And we have the ability to tear things down. And all the while we're speaking these things, our brain is actually listening to what we're saying. And it's such an incredible thing because we have the ability to change ways of thinking and to change the way that we look at certain situations by what we're saying. Now, a lot of times our thoughts and our internal, dialogue is going on inside of us and we're thinking about certain things, but, we don't think it's ever actually going to come out. We're just processing and thinking things. But the Bible does say out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, which means that the things that we're thinking about eventually are going to come out. I don't know if this has ever happened to you before, but there have been times where I've had these conversations in my head, these kind of mock arguments, where I would be thinking about the conversation I wanted to have with somebody, and I was kind of being, them and me at the same time. I would say, well, they're going to say this, so I'm going to say this, and they're going to respond with this, so I'm going to say this. Now, two things. Number one, it never happens that way. They never say what you think they're going to say. And number two, you're having an argument with yourself. You're internally having an argument with yourself. But eventually, those words generally come out. Whatever it is that you prepared in your mind usually ends up coming out anyway. I had a friend in high school and I was thinking about, well, I'm going to say this to him. And I had no intention of really allowing that to come out. But sure enough, we got into a conversation, it turned into an argument, and those words came right out of my mouth. It's because I was thinking something, it was in my heart, and it came out of my mouth. Now, this can be a cycle where we speak things, we hear things, it changes our thoughts, it affects the way that we think, and then we're thinking about it, and then it's coming out of our mouth again, and it's this cycle of speaking things, hearing things, and then kind of thinking about them again and having them come out over and over again. And it can be very detrimental. But we have the ability to speak life into situations, and we have the ability to speak death into situations. It's so important that we are intentional with what we're speaking, with what we're allowing to come out of our mouths, with what we're allowing ourselves to actually verbalize. A lot of times we speak about ourselves in certain ways. We talk about how, I can't believe I did that. I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did that. I'm never going to do this right, or I'm never going to be able to do that, or I always do this. Those terms that we're speaking about, always and never, we're putting our faith and our authority behind words that are coming out of our heart, and we're actually giving them authority to take place in our lives. Because who has the ultimate authority in your life? It's you. Who has the ultimate authority about what you're speaking? It's you. When we choose to speak life into situations, we are endorsing it with our God-given authority. But when we choose to speak death into situations, we're doing the exact opposite. And what we could be doing is actually fighting against the purpose that God has in our lives by what we're speaking. And this applies in every area, especially when we're talking to our friends, to our loved ones. What about when we're talking to our children, for those of us who are parents? When we're saying things to them, when we're speaking into them, especially in their formative years, we are actually pronouncing things over their life. Now, I'm not saying just because you say something necessarily that it's absolutely going to happen. But what I am saying is that you are creating gateways, you're creating ways of thinking inside of our lives, inside of the lives of our children, inside of our friends. You are reinforcing thoughts that people have about themselves. Maybe somebody's struggling with the way they feel about themselves, and we say something that causes them to reinforce that way of thinking. Like, I knew I was an idiot. I knew that I was no good. I knew that this is what they thought about me. Our words have the ability to accomplish so much, both good and bad. But let's go back to the way that our brain operates when it listens to our own voice. How powerful is it to understand that the things that we speak are changing the way that we're thinking? When we're in a situation that's difficult, we can internally think something negative, or we can choose to speak something positive even when it's difficult. We can choose to say, you know what, this situation may be difficult, but I choose to acknowledge the fact that I am going to get through it, that I am going to be able to get from where I am to where I'm going, especially when we're incorporating the truth and the Word of God into that situation. I know this situation looks tough, but I'm choosing to say that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I'm choosing to say that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When we speak these words, our brain is hearing it. It's formulating new thoughts. It's building bridges. It's building new ways of thinking and new patterns. So that way, when we are in that situation, we realize, okay, this situation is not hopeless. This situation is not something that's going to overcome me, but I am going to overcome it because I have Jesus living inside of me, because I have the ability to trust that God is going to take me from where I am into where He's bringing me. When I speak truth into situations, I'm giving my authority both in the physical realm and into the spiritual realm as well. Our words bring life, our words bring power. So it's so important that we're intentional in what we're speaking about and what we're choosing to talk about, what we're saying about our friends, what we're saying about our loved ones, what we're saying about ourselves. It's so vital that we look at these things and that we're intentional in what we're speaking, because we're listening, and guaranteed other people are listening, and we're having an impact on not just our thoughts, but their thoughts as well. So I hope you really like this episode. If you liked it, hit the subscribe button down below, hit the like button. I'd love to see some comments down below. Thank you for watching, and have a great week.